What's up everybody, and welcome to what is probably going to be the last tips video on Planetside 2 and Liberators as well. I'll get a little bit more into that at the end of the video, so let's get started with the most frequently asked questions I get on the channel and answer them right now. The most common question that I get on the channel is probably, what's my Liberator loadout that I use in the videos? And of course, every video there's a little bit of variance. Every full run is different. But in general, I use Bomber, Nanites, and Afterburners the most. You can't really go wrong with Nanites and Afterburner. Both selections there are very versatile. For the Liberator airframe though, it's all personal preference. Like I said before, pick whatever feels most natural to you. Like if you're brand new and you don't really know the difference between all of them, you don't even really have to know that difference. Just try out all three airframes, not only in VR to get a feel for all of them, but also in the live server so that you can get experience flying with all of them, and whichever one feels the best to you or the most natural to you, I would use that to start. Whichever one feels the most natural or comfortable to you to start, especially if you're new, that's gonna speed up your general learning process because you feel comfortable with your airframe. And also, don't be afraid to switch around your airframe. You know, me personally, I used high G for the longest time until I switched to Bomber. I used high G for an entire year before I switched to Bomber. So don't be afraid to switch around, because as you get more experience, you also learn more about yourself and the habits that you fall into when you're flying. And so you might want to switch to an airframe later on that maximizes your advantage and that lines up with the habits that you have when you're flying a lib. The second question / statement is, my random gunners suck and get me killed, and how do I find better gunners? Like I've said in the past, I feel like if you're new to lib piloting and new to Planetside 2 in general, you're not going to have that many friends to play with, or you might not have an outfit with a bunch of experienced lib crews. So picking up randoms is going to be frustrating at times, but I really do think picking up randoms is still a viable way to learn how to fly. And I've actually already made a tips video on starting a lib crew, talking about picking up randoms, turning them into friends, and then turning those friends into experienced gunners for you and regular gunners for you. Once you have that solid core of playtime with those people, you can turn yourself along with those new regular gunners that you have into a competent lib crew. You just gotta keep on playing together and build that chemistry together. And I think it also helps, as a side note, to actually like each other, because, you know, you're going to be spending a ton of hours with each other in a lib and constantly playing with each other. So at the end of the day, if you really hate your gunners, you're not really going to be wanting to play, and thus you probably won't be getting better, right? Because you'll be playing less. So try and pick your gunners carefully, and try and pick people that you like most first of all. The third question / statement is, when an ESF starts hitting me, I'm not sure what to do and I end up dying. What should I do? To answer the question as simply as I possibly can, a lot of new crews and a lot of new pilots have a problem with giving angle immediately as a defensive maneuver. The key is you have to flash your belly against anything that's hitting you as fast as you can, because you gotta think of deterring the enemy ESF as a win. You don't always have to kill the ESF to stop it from shooting you. If you flash your belly and let your gunners shoot at them, they will either get scared or get deterred, because either something else is attacking them, flak is hitting them, and they don't want to deal with your belly gun and tailgun at the same time. You have to just naturally turn your belly in their direction, so that not only do you have the max potential to kill or deter them from attacking you anymore, but also it shows that you kind of know at least what you're doing, because you react in the correct manner right away. Now, most of the really good ESFs are going to continue to fight you, but a lot of the average or worse ESFs are just going to run away because they get scared, because they don't know their maneuvering and they don't know how to reverse maneuver and hover fight. So, most of the time you're going to win just by deterring them. And like I said, deterring is a victory in itself because it keeps ESF pressure off you. And guess what? That lets you farm. So that's a win for you. And me personally, when I'm in a lib, I like farming. So that's a win for me, for sure. Now, talking about random gunners and fighting against ESFs, for a lot of new crews, you're going to be dying a lot because of those things, right? The last question or subject that I get asked about a decent amount of the time is dying. And so as a new Liberator pilot and also a new lib crew, you're going to be dying a lot. Like no matter what, ask any new pilot or ask any veteran pilot or veteran crew. I'm sure when they first started, especially if they didn't have anybody mentoring them in the beginning for Liberators, you're going to be dying no matter what. Like you're going to be dying a ton to good ESFs, AA, and AP in general, just because of lack of good decision making. You're going to be dying, and also you're just going to get outskilled and outgunned by good pilots and good Liberator crews. And like I said before, a lot of new pilots get frustrated with random gunners, which is totally understandable because the variance in skill levels is so high. Sometimes they're bad, sometimes they're just trying it for the first time, sometimes they're pretty good and you might get lucky. But what I always say in regards to this subject is, especially as a Liberator pilot, ask yourself after you died, did I have a good death? And by good death, I mean, did you do everything you possibly could as a Liberator pilot to not only make the best decisions in that short amount of time, but did you also have your technique down? Did your gunners have angle? Did I dive correctly at the right time? Or did random stuff just happen? Like, did a random perfect storm of events just happen and then I just couldn't escape it? It was like a catch-22 situation where I couldn't escape and I'm just going to end up dead no matter what. So ask yourself, was there anything you could do? If you could honestly say, nope, I don't think there's anything else I could have did in my previous death where that would have saved me and kept my crew alive. And I feel this is the key to becoming a better Liberator pilot, right? Every time you die and you ask yourself this question, was there anything else I could do better? You're bound to get better, because a lot of the times when I used to die a lot as a new Liberator pilot, when I was teaching myself with randoms, yes, absolutely, the random gunners that I had, like, there were good ones, there were bad ones, right? But every single time, I just focused on the pure fundamentals of, hey, I'm going to give you angle. I'm going to even hit the brakes and give you angle and give myself the best chance of surviving the situation and defending myself against other air in the right way, so that I build good habits and I also practice giving good angles in a fundamental sort of manner. But it's also important that you try and make good long-term decisions as well, no matter what happens in the short term, right? I'm actually a poker player, and poker being my hobby on the side, it has taught me the value of the long term and how sometimes you just need to ignore the short-term roller coaster ride of, oh man, I died to this, I died to that, or man, I had a bad session, maybe I'm just flying bad. But you can't be results oriented in the short term like that. Sometimes you also have to distance yourself from the short term and think of the good long-term decision making, So as long as you're making good decisions in the long run and also critiquing yourself after every death and having good deaths, in the long run, you're going to be totally fine as a new Liberator pilot. And now I want to cover extra small tips that don't really deserve their own video, but I do want to cover before I end the series. Let's talk about flying flat. flying flat is probably the most obvious sign that you are a new Liberator pilot in Planetside 2. When a new Lib pilot is flying perfectly horizontal and not angling his nose at all, you can sort of tell that he's not the most experienced pilot. Now, the important thing about this is that when you're flying flat, you're not getting the speed boost that you should be utilizing, and because you're flying flat, a lot of veteran crews can catch up to you just by taking the right path to you, like the right vector, so that they can cut you off. And also, veterans use a technique that can give you a small boost in speed, like about 10 to 15 kph, I believe. And so new pilots die a ton of the time because crews can just catch up to them and tank bust and belly gun, and they're dead. This technique for that small speed boost is mostly for cruising. You don't want to use this when you're giving angle because it's going to throw off the belly gun tracers and the lead for the belly gun and the tail gun. But it's great for when you're just cruising around, moving from hex to hex, and also chasing enemy units down. So how do you do this? Well, you want to angle your nose down about 10 to 15, maybe 10 to 20 degrees, and hold spacebar. And you can do this for any air vehicle. Galaxies, you have to fly it a little bit sideways, but for the most part, this will work, and you'll get that small boost. And you might not think it matters, but like I've said before, in the long run, it will help you get places faster and kill units faster, catch up to them faster, etc., etc. And in the long run, it will just make you a better Lib pilot and make you more efficient in general when it comes to your movement. And I think that does it for all of the tips I wanted to cover and all the statements / questions I wanted to cover. So now let's talk about the state of the channel and the future of the channel. So as I've said before, I'm going to be not making as much Planetside 2 content from now on, just because me and my friends play it a lot less. And also, I personally want to explore not only other games, but also other kinds of videos that I might want to make. And that also allows me to learn and experiment with new editing techniques and all this stuff that, you know, I want to slowly get better at, even if it's going to take a long time. I'm still going to probably be posting maybe a couple full runs, like for Liberators here and there, just because there might be a time where Mustard and I just get a craving to play Planetside, and then we'll get on, and then if we have a good run, I'll probably post it on this channel still. But for the most part, there's going to be less Planetside 2 content and more other gaming content. Whatever it's going to be, I hope you guys check it out. You know, when I first started making videos in this tips series for Liberators, even at the very start, I wanted to make a library of videos for tips videos on Liberators where a person, a new Lib pilot or a new Lib crew could watch all of those videos, and by the time they've watched all those videos, they can have at least a very solid grounding on what they should be paying attention to get better at it. Whether or not they actually get better at it, you know, it's up to them in the long run. But I wanted them to have this base knowledge so then they can get better faster, right? So that they didn't have to spend like 500 hours or so like I had to do to figure out all these small things, you know. Like my goal was to teach you even all of these little small things so that you don't even have to think about it when you're starting out. And I think now that I've gotten about 14 episodes of this, of course not all of them are Liberator related, some of them are Galaxy related, but I think the wide range of topics that I've covered in this series gives new players and new pilots a solid enough grounding to where I think I can move on now from making any more tips videos. And of course I can't end this video without saying thank you to, you know, all those people that gave me positive feedback on these videos, which was amazing. And also, you know, back when I started posting these videos on YouTube, I was happy to even get 10 views on a video in a week. So, you know, getting a couple hundred views for every post right out the gate on my videos now is pretty sweet, and I have you guys to thank for that. And I know this has been a, you know, primarily Planetside 2 focused channel, but you know, at the end of the day, I've always wanted this channel to be my personal gaming channel. So I've always wanted to post like just things I'm interested in general. So I really hope, even if you did subscribe for the Planetside 2 content, that you check out my other content in the future. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.